I am going to recess the regularly scheduled meeting for the City of Lake Elsinore, and I'm going to call to order and move us forward to public comments, non-agendized, and 3 minutes in length. Madam City Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We have 4 requests to speak. Our first speaker, Teresa Kerpluck, followed by Carrie Ruther.
It's me again. Really quick, I just want to tell you, when I write these things, I'm really passionate, so please don't, if I sound pointed, don't take it personally. Okay, so good evening, council members. The last time I was here, I expressed the growing support for the community of the Alberhill Villages project and requested the release of the environmental impact report since it has been over 5 years compared to the average release of only 2.5 years. And while I greatly appreciated a response, I did not find it satisfactory. The first council member stated that they did not have a completed EIR report from the developer. Another stated that they do, but they couldn't or wouldn't tell me why they wouldn't release it. As taxpayers and citizens of the city, I think we deserve a little more transparency from our city council members. I was also very concerned when told that the city of Lake Elsinore doesn't really have an economic plan. Some of you have served on this council for several terms, and after 125 years, the city doesn't have an economic plan. Well, I know of a plan, and it's not more houses and campgrounds. The Alberhill Villages is a great economic plan. It will bring thousands of permanent jobs, revenue, shopping, entertainment, restaurants, a church, schools and education, medical maybe, leisure, convenience, growth, and most of all, it will keep our citizens in our local communities rather than traveling outside and spending our money elsewhere in other cities. We think this is a wonderful plan, and we need our council members to move forward with it. As one of the very few developers still willing to invest in Lake Elsinore, the citizens, and contrary to popular belief, besides the few regulars that have come here, the citizens of Lake Elsinore do support Castle and Cooke, and we do not see them as an enemy. Rather, we see them as our friend. And again, there is a huge growing support for the Alberhill Villages, and this is what your people want and need. So please, for the greater good of our city, I am asking my elected council members to release the EIR report so the project can move forward. And you told me earlier that I guess there must be a miscommunication because they're telling me they're waiting on you. So if you guys could contact each other or reach out to each other, I'd really appreciate it, because everybody in our area over there, we're just dying to have something. We got nothing over there. I mean,
Mr. Kerpluck, as when I took office as mayor in the beginning of this year, I made it my primary goal to go ahead and get that project approved. Beginning in February, we had weekly meetings where I brought together the city staff and all the head of city staff together with the Castle and Cooke heads of their staff to go ahead and work out the issues. And the idea was we were going to go ahead and sit in a room and lock the doors and not come out until we had an agreement. But we found very quickly that the issues that surrounded the application were greater than what we could manage in one day. So we began meeting on a weekly basis, literally probably using staff time to an overextent, maybe 20 to 25% of their usable staff time on a weekly basis. And basically, we made some progress. We discussed things like infrastructure, parks, as well as transportation, traffic, as well as other infrastructure. And basically, this is what it boils down to. They have 5 points to go ahead and amend on the between the specific plan and the EIR. We need those corrections made. The environmental impact report is our document, and there's a couple of stipulations that we'd like to go ahead and have discussed. I'm a little upset about this, and you have to understand, and I'm not trying to go ahead and make it personal either, because it has been something that we spent 6 months on, and I dedicated a good portion of my mayorship towards, and we agreed up front that we weren't going to go ahead and take the discussion outside of the room until recently. And we got down to the very end here, and we have very, very few deal points to go ahead and make the difference on. But they're very important because they're tied to the transportation and the infrastructure to convey that traffic and the timing of that infrastructure improvements. And that's all we really need to go ahead and have modified. The developer this evening, just before the council meeting, delivered updated traffic impact analysis.
Oh, good.
And that was one of the deliverables we were looking for. We were looking for an absorption study for the fiscal analysis that was presented to us. We have concerns with the $3 million number that they present. And we have some concerns with some of the other factors that are presented too, but most of it we can go ahead and move past. Very, very few deal points need to be made. Some language in the environmental impact report that will make sure that we have the ability to go ahead and address any additional traffic concerns that may happen in the future. This is a very complicated project.
Right.
It will be
There's
developed out over 29 years. It involves more retail space than Temecula Valley Mall.
Right.
And so when we start talking and throwing around these numbers, we have some issues in terms of that. Normally, I don't address comments, but I did want to go ahead and assure you because
I'm glad you did.
I've heard a lot from a lot of people, and I want to let you know that there's nobody here that wants to make this happen more than I do. But we have to make sure we get the right deal to protect the residents because that's what's the most important thing. Residents first.
Right,
period.
and that's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear that the city supports it because I hear a lot of rumors that the city and Castle Cooke don't get along and they're not going to, you know what I mean? It's never going to happen.
I heard it too.
It's frustrating to the people because we don't really care what goes on, behind closed doors. We just want, you know what I mean, what our high taxes that we pay in our area, you know what I mean? We want to see it in our own community, not going to other cities. We want to see it here. We want the entertainment here. I'm tired of driving to other cities to entertain my family.
I've spent nearly 100 hours total on this,
Yeah.
and that doesn't happen for any other development project. And I will say that there are developers. We have lots of applications here within the city for a lot of big projects. We approved one today.
Right.
So just hang out for a second. I appreciate your excitement and your exuberance, but give us a minute and give us a little bit of room to go ahead and get this right, because what we'll end up with if we don't get it right is like the Railroad Canyon Exchange improvements that we're having problems with, or the one-way in and out that we have over at Tuscany Hills. Those were mistakes that were made when I was a kid here, and now we're still trying to fix them. I'm trying to fix them today.
Right.
I don't want my grandkids to have to go ahead and fix the problems that are with this next project.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
understand it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Ruther?
Good evening, Mayor Manos and City Council members. My name is Carrie Ruther. As most of you know, I am the community liaison for Castle Cooke. I'm excited to let you know that Castle Cooke has worked out with the school district to figure out a variable funding plan for a new elementary school in Alberhill Ranch. However, as you've heard tonight, there's a lot of confusion about the CFDs. Which is understandable, as the mayor pointed out earlier tonight. So I kind of wanted just to go through and clarify a little bit the difference between the two, if I can be concise. Castle Cooke did send a letter to the city in mid-May asking for the removal of the facilities portion of the CFD on homes yet to be built. But keep in mind, this does not affect the maintenance portion of the CFD. The requested change would simply trade out the facilities portion of the CFD and replace it with a new school CFD, especially allocated to build an elementary school in Alberhill Ranch. We have not heard back for almost 2 months regarding the letter, and we're looking forward to working with staff to take action to begin this process. As you know, in our 2005 agreement with the city, it allows Castle Cooke to make a change to this, and this will not impact any of the residents that are currently living in Alberhill Ranch. It will only impact future residents. Actually, it will impact the current residents, but just in a positive way, as of getting a new school, which should raise home values and as families move into the community that bring them closer together. Now, it also seems that issue has become convoluted to the point where the residents believe that there will be some way that they're going to be paying for the school CFD, or that the future homeowners in B will not have any taxes. As you know, this is not true. You also heard tonight that residents are requesting a lower tax instead of the new elementary school. This is also a confused, convoluted idea, is that this is not a question of preference of having one or the other. The carve-out plan that people were also referring to has never been officially presented to Castle and Cooke and apparently requires an $8 million investment from Castle and Cooke. And Castle and Cooke has already spent over $20 million of their own money on infrastructure in this area. And this is above and beyond the bonds that the Area A residents pay for so far that Castle and Cooke. So that the idea that Castle and Cooke, out of their own generosity, would pay an additional $8 million is somewhat not a feasible idea. As a side note, the residents are presenting the carve-out in the materials that they're proposing is illegal and have marked up. I've marked part of the letter up for you, and I can leave it tonight as, again, it kind of piecemealed a couple different CFDs together as if it was one. It is illegal to create a new CFD, I'll read fast, on the onset to incur the debts of another area, as we think this would probably is the case here with the new subdivision. If it is legal, the debt would have to be paid out in full, and this would take a huge amount of money, and one doesn't really know where this money would come from. I'm guessing that the city wouldn't be paying for that, and nor would the residents. So I hope I've been able to make this confusing topic a bit clearer, and I hope that everyone gets excited about Alberhill Ranch School. It's going to be a big win for the community and for the city of Lake Elsinore. So thank you.
Ms. Ruther, could you've omitted your city of residence, if you could.
Where I personally live?
Yes,
Oh, sorry, Temecula, city of Temecula.
Very good. Okay. I just wanted to go ahead and reaffirm that the CFDs are a complicated financing vehicle. Obviously, we had to go ahead and, of course, approach our inside counsel, our main counsel, as well as bond counsel to prepare the documents in terms of that. It's not a quick thing to do. We also bring something to the council dais here to go ahead and approve the relinquishing of the CFD rate and apportionment, of course. So we do have to go through a couple of steps. Obviously, we can't force the developer to go ahead and issue bonds, so it is kind of an automatic, but there is a process. So we're working through that. Mr. Simpson, my understanding was we did present the carve-out option to Castle and Cooke officially, at least to DFBG and their financing firm. Could you provide any information on that?
Yeah, we met with DPFG and actually had our finance team, our bond counsel, as well as the underwriter we typically use, meet with them and go over the language. The carve-out was essentially language put into the refunding to provide at least the current owner or a future owner, should they decide to buy down the tax and pay off early, they would be able to do that to help make the properties more marketable in the future, because the assessments in Area A are very high in comparison to what the current values are typically selling for those homes. So in order to make the whole area, since they're at the very early part of their development, first 400 plus homes out of several thousand, it would make it an even playing field, make it more marketable. So we just created the option for them. And, there was ways to structure that and to, whether it's $4 million, $8 million, whatever the investment is, there was a way to get that money back to them as well. It was essentially making them an investor to help temporarily buy down, where they would get an interest rate return on their investment. But it would help stimulate some activity if that's something they wanted to do. They chose not to. But we left the option there in case they did sell the property, the new buyer would have that option as well. And we did that as part of the refunding. It was presented to them through their consultant that they chose and our team. So it's been very open.
I had mentioned it months ago, so I was a little surprised to hear that they didn't know about it. But, I mean, obviously the investment, dollar amount was kind of different. I don't know how to. I mean, I'm trying to go ahead and make this really clear because, again, this was something that I had a significant passion about, and I am a big supporter. But at the same time, we have to go ahead and call a spade a spade. I got residents calling me asking questions, and we're having to go ahead and clarify some things too. And I'm just going to be honest with people. This was something that was presented. If they're not interested in going for it, that's okay. but it was an opportunity. That was it, and it was a low-cost opportunity. And I think the income that was generated from it, because it's municipal bonds, is income tax-free for a corporation. So, when you're talking about a large organization like Castle and Cooke, I know $8 million sounds like a great investment. When you stand to make, nearly $400 or $500 million on a project, it might be a cost of doing business, So,
one thing
Pro Tem Tisdale.
Okay.
Carrie, just a quick question. Why did Castle and Cooke hire you?
Why?
Why?
Well, I was told that to essentially clear up moments like this where the community is confused between one CFD and a second CFD, to get message points, the details of what Alberhill Villages is out to the public.
Yeah, and so, you've reached out to all the council, we've talked with you, and, we've talked with Castle and Cooke, and I applaud the mayor's effort, and I think all of us at one time or another have tried to get on that bull called Castle and Cooke and work with them. I spent a considerable amount of time with them on a lot line adjustment, and in the end, it went nowhere. Since 2008, when the economy did this, we didn't stop building in Lake Elsinore, but Castle and Cooke did. And I don't think they built anything since that time. And so I just think that, we're just getting a lot of information out, and we're just sort of playing games here with this. And I take offense to it, because we have tried really hard to work with them. And they're not the most complicated project. Summerly, I think they raised that thing 24 feet to build out there. Think about that. 24 feet they raised to build on a floodplain, which I disagree with, but that's a separate issue. But, we've worked really hard with folks, and there just seems to be one barrier after the other. We're the fastest growing city in the state. And it wasn't because of Castle and Cooke, it was because of Pardee and some of the other folks that continue to build. So, and I understand what she's saying back there, we all want those same things. Those are great things. But once they finally get approved, you might not see them for 10 years, because they're all tied to a build-out. Well, no, I'm just saying it's like with everything else. It's just like when we had the other discussion about the streets and stuff. 200 houses before we build a wall, and those are built on the economy. If things work really well and we're building houses really fast, then you get a wall real fast. A lot of our projects are tied that way. So, and I appreciate them hiring you, because we need to clear up some of these things. But the fact that people have all this confusion is an issue in itself. It really is. It's a really big issue. So I appreciate what you're trying to do, and I appreciate the comments, but I think this council has worked really, really hard with Castle and Cooke, regardless of what's being said. I have no hard feelings with anybody in this city. We want these projects to be successful. So I hate when they come and people think that we're not trying to work with folks. That's not the truth.
Again, offer my comments at the HOA meetings and be able to go ahead and offer any type of clarifications necessary. And my cell phone number's on my business card, so I'll offer that to you guys, and then anytime you guys want to go ahead and talk. So fortunately, this is not an agendized item. We're really not supposed to respond, so I apologize for that. I'm going to ask Madam City Clerk, do we have another speaker?
We have two additional speakers, Mr. Larry Numedal, followed by Ray Boos.
I apologize for my indiscretion the first time or last time.
You didn't know. It's okay.
My concern about this wall everybody's arguing about and stuff, is it going to be a noise barrier or just a wall?
It'd be just a wall. Hopefully it would provide some noise protection also.
It will not. It'll amplify it. Trust me, I live by one.
Are you saying you don't want the wall?
Oh, I could care less. I'm far enough away I won't hear it.
Okay.
When I lived in Denver, they put one in my yard, and it amplified the noise to the point that I had to take and soundproof my side of the wall. So that's one thing. When are they going to build this thing?
That would be according to
200th
essentially
building permit.
Yeah, it'd be according to market value, so it's hard to tell you when a defined time period when it would actually be built.
Because you guys keep saying that they're going to have to sell 200 homes before they'll put the wall up and da-da-da-da-da. These poor people that are going to be living near this road, they need the wall now or something. And in the city council, you have right of eminent domain. Just go in and put the darn thing up. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to get their permission if it's on public property.
There's a legal process involved with that.
I understand all that, but you can still start it
Yeah.
and just get it over with.
All right.
Otherwise, the people are going to suffer. So are their property values. And so is mine when you let this other thing go through.
Okay. Very good. Madam City Clerk, any further requests to speak?
Mr. Ray Booz is our last speaker.
Very good.
It's been a long night for everybody.
Certainly
Ray
has.
Booz again, Lake Elsinore. I want to thank the council, the mayor, for understanding what I tried to bring up regarding the Arnold getting through to Terracotta. It's really a big deal. And then also being able to maintain the right-left turn ability on Dryden. So I thank you very much for that. I also want to thank the city for their concern on the power lines that are going to be going through that valley. If we're going to have a bunch of new residents there, you can imagine having 100-foot plus steel towers with multiple lines, not a good selling feature, plus eyesore and everything else. On a little different topic, when they're talking about the lake and the salinity, I remember seeing in the municipal water district's reports to customers, a lot of the salinity comes as a result of water softeners that are being used in homes. So this is adding to the ground table or groundwater and the salinity there, which then eventually all comes into the watershed. So I don't know if the city might be able to look at some way to restrict the use of water softeners, particularly during this time when the lake is really critical. And just to end things, when my wife and I moved here 15 years ago, we stopped at the Chamber of Commerce and asked the lady there about the water in the lake. And she told us that we could go out in the lake in a boat and dip a pitcher into the water, let it settle for a little while, and you could drink it. So, yeah, I'm going to do that. But anyway,
Thank you, Mr. Booz. All right. Does that wrap it up?
No further requests to speak.
Very good. All right. So let's go ahead and move to city manager comments.
Yes, one comment, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say that I was extremely proud of our community on July 4th. I want to thank all the employees who were out working, public safety, police, and fire. It was a great night. The fireworks are great, and I just wanted to say that I think our community is getting better every year, and it was a good night. So thank you very much.
Thank you. City Manager Yates. Madam City Attorney.
No comments.
No comments. All right. That takes us to City Council comments. Councilman Hickman.
Carrie, Teresa, this is for you. I am very close to the Chinese. Took them over one of the corporations here, met with Tom Tomlinson, and they are going to help push for the university on with the jobs. They're part of MEBO, and MEBO is numerous billions, okay? So they've got the forthwithal to really do a good job. That you don't know, but it's time you'll hear. I, too, hope everybody enjoyed the 4th of July. Fireworks presented by your city and the Storm baseball team. I ended up going out in the city pontoon boat, and you guys should go out with your kids. They'd really enjoy it. And it didn't break down, okay? That's right. We didn't get towed in. I did it with a lot of Chinese again. So I ended up working the 4th of July, but it was a lot of fun. It's a place to really enjoy the fireworks. I attended the Railroad Canyon Interchange Traffic Workshop last night, left a few minutes early, and watched the rest of the live presentation on Channel 31. I really thought that was cool watching it from home. I got to inform the public more about that, I'll tell you. Virginia, I want to thank you, okay? Virginia Bloom, our city clerk. She is leaving us, I guess, July 27th in that area, and she's done an excellent job for the city. She's one that's kept me in line, and I wish you the best for your next business venture. I really do. And Nicole, have you heard about the replacement for Tom Tomlinson yet? Our girl was put up and nominated to replace Tom Tomlinson on the school board. So, congratulations, honey.
Our girl.
Excellent pick, excellent pick. And I also want to thank you for all the work you've done on the lake. This, the Lake Watch, it's really worthwhile. Thank you so much, and I'm going to say good night.
Thank you, sir. Very nice. Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you so much. For Teresa, Mrs. Kerpluck, a couple things I wanted to just mention to you. Earlier in your public comments in the beginning of the meeting, you had said, that Castle and Cooke wasn't a charity and that they were a business. Well, the city of Lake Elsinore is also a business. We are not a charity. And so we see exactly what you're talking about. My colleague and I, Mr. Manos, have served as the new Economic Development Subcommittee for the last 3 years. You are absolutely correct in saying for a city at 127 years, we have never had an economic development plan, except for that we've had one now for about the last 3 years. That's why you see things happening in the city, and something that I've worked very passionately on. So I think it's important that everybody knows that we have that. We also have our Chamber of Commerce, and we just brought on an economic development subcommittee at our last council meeting, Mr. Bracken, who's working on high-level projects. So, as excited and passionate as you are, so are we. And, it doesn't need to be a combative meeting of the minds. It's more of we just have to have better communication and understanding. If you were here at the last council meeting, you would have heard all the amazing economic development subcommittee efforts that are happening. So that's the kind of thing that is really important. Just like you hear rumors, we hear rumors. I would just encourage you to do your homework and find out what is really going on before you even entertain a rumor. Because I see that in Lake Elsinore, that's exactly the problem we have right now. No one's taking the time to find out what's exactly happening. So thank you for coming. Thank you for your comments. I also want to thank the participants and all the residents that came out from Alberhill tonight. You never see people at a council meeting unless they're passionate about something, but we appreciate them whether they're upset or pleased or not. This is exactly where you should be coming to let the council hear you, and we hear you. So I always want to appreciate you for that. This 4th of July was phenomenal. I think Mr. Johnson left. I believe he did, Mr. William Johnson. I needed to give him some huge kudos. As many of you know, we took over the campground June 1st. We are now in control as a city of that campground, and he launched over 350 boats with not one accident, not one fight, and not one law enforcement issue all day long. We made more revenue in 2 days than we did in a whole year last year at that campground. So I will tell you, kudos to you, Mr. Johnson, and your team. You did a phenomenal job. To our law enforcement folks, it was a very successful night. I want to thank you for keeping our city safe on the busiest night in our city, typically. So thank you for all you do. And then last, I just want to thank our city clerk. You're going to hear it over and over. I came on to the council with no political experience other than what I was seeing happen in our city. To Mrs. Kerpluck's point, one of the problems I had was transparency too. I think we've done a really good job at being as transparent as we can, and that's to Mrs. Bloom's accord and help. She has guided us and kept us in line. It's hard to keep him in line, but she did a very good job. Mrs. Bloom, I don't know any other city clerk, and I want to thank you for making my term so far compliant. One, that's very important. If I don't have my financial reports in, she's all over me. But secondly, just thank you for your patience and your decorum and just your confidence in us. I appreciate that very much. So with that, I'm going to say to our residents, thank you so much. It's a long night. With that, good night. Oh, Nicole, I'll talk to you later. You did a great job. I'll talk to you all about it later. I got to let my colleagues talk. Lake management plan, good job. Good night, and God bless everybody.
Very nice. Thank you, Councilwoman Johnson. Councilman McGee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So tonight we heard from 21 homeowners that want one thing and one homeowner that wants something else. We heard some stories from other council members about how they have worked hand in hand with Castle and Cooke to help them as business partners within this community. Back in 2007, as the mayor, I helped clear hurdles with the Resource Conservation Agency on 9 acres of property that Castle and Cooke owns next to the Lake Street off-ramp, obviously a prime piece of real estate in Southern California. We also secured TUMP funds to expand the bridge next to this piece of property and to narrow the channel further enhancing that piece of property and making it more developable. Today, 8 years later, we have no application. We have no building permit. We have no plan. In February of this year, I spent 3 hours with Ms. Ruthner outlining my concerns, desires, goals, and objectives. Never got an answer from her about why nothing's happened on those 9 acres. Couldn't even get a business card. So, moving on. Last week, we secured $4.6 million in TUMP funding to correct Railroad Canyon Road I-15 interchange. As you heard the mayor talk earlier, that intersection is a result of some very poor planning that began in 1989 when the council chose not to listen to their professional staff and approved Tuscany Hills as a 1,000-unit subdivision, basically on a cul-de-sac. 3 years later came Walmart, then the stadium, and then the county approved 14,000 lots in Menifee, all of them funneling to one spot. And today we are working hard to correct that issue. The EIR and traffic analysis on the north end of town that the mayor is so passionate about is trying to alleviate anything like that, a repeat of that historical disaster, for lack of a better term. Also on Wednesday, we secured another promise of $4.0 million, also from TUMP fees, to go toward right-of-way and design work on I-15 and the Railroad Canyon Road interchange in conjunction with the Tiger loan that we are working on that will also go toward the Franklin Street interchange. So just before the 4th of July,